Hello and welcome to today's lesson. We're going to be covering topics under the Standard 5.3 in 6th grade and also topics under the Study Island lesson entitled Central Tendency and Range. So that means that we're going to be looking at how to calculate the mean, median, mode, and range and what scenarios it's best to use which calculation. So as we're going through these, make sure that you take notes on how to calculate each one of these and then some example problems so that you have those to refer back to when you're trying these problems on your own. And you can even pause at the beginning of the question, work the problem out for yourself, see if you get the same answer, and if not, then you know where you need to work on, and if you do, then you know you're doing pretty good on those problems and you can work on something else. So I'm so glad that you joined us today, and let's go ahead and take some notes.
So we're going to have to look at the definitions of mean, median, mode, and range. So mean is the average of the numbers. You're going to add the numbers together and then divide by the number of numbers. A median, you're going to have to first put the numbers in order, and then you're going to find the middle of the numbers. So for an even number, you would then find the average of the two middle numbers, and then if it's the odd number, it's the middle number. The mode is the number that occurs the most often, and the range is the difference, or you subtract the highest and lowest values. And here's a little rhyme to help you remember the definitions. Hey diddle diddle, the median is in the middle. You add then divide for the mean, it's the average. The mode is the one that appears there the most, and the range is the difference between. This first problem asks us to calculate the mean. So when we calculate the mean, that means we're going to add up all the numbers and divide by the number of numbers. So I'm going to rewrite these numbers vertically so that they're easier to add up. And so 5 plus 7 is 12, carry the 1. And then 3 plus 3 is 6, plus 3 is 9, plus 4 is 13, plus 1 is 14. So these add up to 142, and then I'm going to have to divide that 142 by the number of numbers, and there's 4 numbers in this problem. So 4 goes into 14 3 times. 3 times 4 is 12. I subtract those two numbers and get 2, bring down my 2, and that leaves me with 22. And 4 goes into 22 5 times. 5 times 4 is 20. Subtract those numbers, and I'm left with a remainder of 2. So that means I'm going to have to add a decimal into my problem, add on a 0, and bring that 0 down to see if I can make it so I don't have a remainder. So 4 goes into 20 5 times. 4 times 5 is 20. I subtract those numbers, and I'm left with 0. So I don't have a remainder. And that means my mean, or my average here, is 35 5/10. So A is my final answer. Okay, this second problem here asks us to find the mean of this set. So to find the mean, I have to add up all of my numbers. So I'm going to rewrite these numbers horizontally, lining up my place values so that it is easier for me to add them. So here, 4 plus 9 is 13, plus 6 is 19, plus 4 is 23, plus 3 is 26. So write down the 6, carry the 2. 9 plus 9 is 18, plus 1 is 19, plus 2 is 21, plus 2 is 23, plus 2 is 25. Write down the 5, carry the 2. And then 3 plus 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5, plus 2 is 7. So the sum of those numbers is 756. Now I have to take 756 and divide it by the number of numbers. This problem has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers in this set, so I'm going to divide this by 5. So 5 goes into 7 once. 1 times 5 is 5. I subtract, and the difference is 2. Bring down the 5. 5 goes into 25 5 times. 5 times 5 is 25. I subtract those, and I'm left with 0, and I still have this 6 to bring down, so I bring down the 6. 5 goes into 6 one time. 1 times 5 is 5. I subtract those, and I still have a remainder of 1, so I'm going to try to get it so that I don't have any remainder. So I'm going to add in a decimal, add in the 0, and bring down the 0, and now I have a 10. Well, 5 goes into 10 2 times. 5 times 2 is 10. and I subtract that and I'm left with 0. So now I no longer have a remainder. So that means that my mean is going to be 151 and 2/10. So that's going to be letter B as my final answer. Next, I'm going to find the median. And the median, you're going to have to put these numbers in order from smallest to biggest first. Do not skip that step. So my smallest number here is 23. Next up is 28. And when I do that for the rest of the numbers, it ends up looking like this. But it's always a good idea to check that you didn't skip any or write too many numbers. So you can count up the number of numbers in the problem and the number of numbers you've written down. So in the problem, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I've written down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's always good to double check that. And so now I'm just going to find the middle number. And so I'm just going to go ahead and cross them off equally from beginning and end. And I end up with 2 numbers in the middle. So that means I'm going to have to take the average of those 2 numbers. Or think about what number is exactly in the middle of 51 and 54. So you're going to have to add 51 plus 54, which is 105, and then divide that by 2. And so I know 104, half of 104 is going to be 52. So half of 105 is going to be 52 and a half. So that means my median number here is D, 52 and a half. This problem here asks what is the median of the following set of numbers. And so I'm going to have to put these numbers in smallest order from smallest to biggest again. And when I do that, this is what it looks like. And once again, I'm going to double check myself. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 numbers in my answer, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 numbers written down. So the numbers in the questions and what I've written down, the number of them matches. So it's a good lead that I've done it right. And so now I'm just going to find numbers, which one's in the middle. And it's an odd amount this time, so I should have that one number in the middle. So I'm just going to cross them off to find out which one's in the middle. And 39's in the middle. I have 4 below and 4 above it. So that's going to make choice D, 39, my final answer. Here I'm asked to find the mode of the following set of numbers, which means I'm going to find the number that occurs the most often. So I'm looking across here and I see that 67 shows up 3 times. So I'm just going to double check that no other numbers occur more than that. 68 appears twice. 12 is only there once. 115 is only there once. And 150 is only there once. So 67 does occur the most times, so that's going to make A my final answer. This problem here asks me to find the mode of the following set of numbers. So once again, I'm looking for that most number. So I'm going to look through and see if I find a number that occurs numerous times, and I see that this 106 occurs 3 times. So I'm going to check the rest of the numbers to make sure they don't occur more often than 3 times. So I have 110, and that occurs twice. I have a 24, and that occurs just once. The 153 occurs once, and the 13 occurs once. So 106 is the one that occurs the most times, which is letter C. This problem here asks me to find the range. So the range is the difference between the highest and smallest number. So my smallest number is 24, and my largest number is 38. And so I'm just going to double check real quick before I do the subtraction that there's no numbers smaller than 24 and no numbers bigger than 38, which there isn't. So I'm going to take 38 minus 24. And when I do that, I get 14. So that means my range of numbers in this problem is D, 14. This problem here asks to find what is the range of this set of numbers. So that means I'm going to need the smallest number minus the biggest number. So I'm going to look through and see if I can pick out the smallest number. So I see a 23, and I'll double check that none of these numbers are smaller than 23. 30, 25, 31, 27, 26, 25, 33, 25. Nope, that's the smallest is 23. So now I'm going to go through and see if I can pick out the biggest number. And I'm going through and I see this 33, and I think 33 is the biggest number. So I'm going to look through, is there any numbers bigger than 33? No. So that's my smallest and biggest number, and I'm going to go ahead and subtract those. 33 minus 23 is 10. And so letter A, 10, is going to be my final answer. That is the range of this set. Also be asked in this set of problems, what is the best measure of central tendency? So why would I want to use the mean number over the median number? When is it more likely to use the mode number? So your mode, that's the best one to use if your number isn't numerical. So if you have people listing their favorite cereals, or if you need to know what is the most typical. The median is good to use over the mean if you have a lot of outliers. So if all your numbers are in the 50s and 60s, and then you have this number over here that's 120, using the median is best in that scenario. And then it's best to use the mean when there are no outliers. This next problem says, for the city of Wacha, the high temperatures in degrees Fahrenheit for the last 2 weeks of July were recorded as follows. Which could be the best measure of tendency for these temperatures? So first I'm going to look at and say, well, it's not asking me typical, it has numbers, so it's not going to be mode. So mean or median, I'm going to look to see, are there any outliers? Are there any numbers that look like they don't belong? Well, for the most part, you have high 70s, 80s, lower 90s. They're all pretty close together. There's none that are blatantly don't belong. So that means there's not any outliers. So my best one to use is the mean, which is choice D. This problem says Hogan Packing Company packages bags of peanuts. After a test run of the packaging process, the peanuts in tins bags are counted. The amount of peanuts in the packages are, and here's the list, which would be the best measure of central tendency for these amount of peanuts. So if I'm going to use the mode, I'm going to be looking for I'm going to be given a set of data that isn't numbers, or it's going to ask me about typical, which isn't the case. So it's not mode. And then range isn't technically a measure of central tendency, so it's not going to be the range ever. However, median I use if there is a number or two that is not like the others, that it just kind of seems like something's amiss with that. And mean I use if they're all in about the same area on a number line. So I look here and I have a whole bunch of 50s and 40 numbers, and then I have this 14. This 14 is not like the others. So that means I have an outlier, so I'm going to use the median, letter A. This problem says the chart above shows the football scores for the Jets this season. Which of the following measures of central tendency would show the most typical score for the Jets season? The big key word here is typical. Anytime you're asked about typical, you're going to use the mode every single time. So my answer here is A. This problem says a drag race was held with 20 contestants. The best time was 7.4 seconds and the worst time was 10.3 seconds. Only half of the contestants advanced in the final race. Which of the measures of central tendency would be used to calculate the cutoff time for the final race? So because you're only looking at that first half, which one of these talks about half? The median talks about finding the halfway point of your numbers. So if you're looking for the cutoff score, you're looking for that half and up, then that's going to be the median. So letter A is going to be my final answer. Thank you for joining us today, and I hope you learned something new.